Alexander the Great, a figure shrouded in legends, myths, and contradictions. He was not just a military leader, a man whom many called a living god. His campaigns changed the map of the world. His army went from Greece to India, whose name he knew in the most remote corners of the then earth. He died in 323 BC at the age of only 32, but the mysteries arose precisely after his death. Sources of recommendation. At first, Alexander's body was taken to Macedonia, his homeland, but soon the route changed, and they decided to bury him in Egypt. Why? In one version, the Egyptian priests were in him, the heir of the pharaohs, a man who was destined by fate itself to be in the land of the Nile. Egypt always attracted him. After all, it was here that he imagined the great city of Alexandria, dreaming of making it the pearl of his kingdom. And it was here, as many believe, that he found his final resting place. Ptolemy, Alexander's closest ally, became the ruler of Egypt and understood the significance of his king's body. It was not just a dead body, it was a symbol of power, greatness, and legitimacy. Whoever guards Alexander's ashes carries his legacy. So Ptolemy did everything possible to ensure that the body ended up in Egypt. At first, it was placed in Memphis, the capital's oldest pharaoh. But later, when Alexandria flourished, the tomb was moved there, to the heart of the city, calling this place Soma, body. And for many centuries, pilgrims flocked to Alexandria to see the tomb of the great conqueror. It was mentioned by such figures as Julius Caesar and the Emperor Augustus. It was believed that Alexander's body lay in a sarcophagus of gold, decorated with rare stones. When Augustus came to Alexandria, he hoped to change the face of the dead king. The emperor bowed and kissed the remains, acknowledging the greatness of the one who had long been dead, but was still right in the minds of people. However, over time, everything changed. The emperor made a tomb. References to it became less and less frequent, and then they disappeared completely, as if the memory of the tomb itself disappeared along with it. And here comes the most interesting part. Where did Alexander's body go? There is a version that Alexander's tomb was destroyed as a result of a catastrophe. Alexandria, built on unstable ground, suffered from earthquakes more than once. Tsunamis and fires swept away entire city blocks. Perhaps the tomb was buried under rubble, flooded by the sea, or destroyed to the ground. If so, its remains may still rest under the modern streets of Alexandria, hidden at a level of reliable meters. But there is another, much darker version. According to some proposals, Alexander's body was claimed. Some claim that it was stolen by Roman emperors to show their power over the greatness of the past. Others said that the priests hid the body, fearing that it would become an object of a cult that could threaten Christianity, which was gaining strength. At that time, Alexander's tomb could indeed become a sacred place, where crowds of pilgrims flocked, and the church could not allow this. But the most mysterious explanation for the absorption is that Alexander's body suggested that it had not decayed. The chronicles say that it looked as if he was only sleeping. For the ancients, this was a familiar divinity. And if this is true, perhaps the priests and guardians of the tombs decided that it was too early for the world to see the talking king, and they hid him so that no one could find him. Many researchers believe that the poisoning of Alexander's body was not an accident, but a carefully thought-out secret. Too many powers and nations laid claim to his legacy. Each wanted to find out that he was the legitimate successor of the great commander. This means that the possession of his remains was not only symbolic, but also a weapon in a political game. Thus, the tomb became not just a display of memory, but a key to power. In the 4th century AD, efforts were made to riot in Alexandria. Christians destroyed religious shrines, destroyed statues and temples. Many believe that it was then that Alexander's body was secretly hidden. The only assumption is that it was moved to underground catacombs hidden in the labyrinths of the city. Others are sure that the sarcophagus with the body was taken far beyond Egypt, perhaps to Constantinople, to hide it from the crowd and zealous fanatics. There is even a hypothesis that Alexander rests in one of the nameless tombs in the conditions of war. According to legend, the caravan transporting his body lost its way and was buried by sandstorms. There, among the endless dunes, stands a tomb to which no one can find the way. Some researchers call this Alexander's curse. Everyone who tried to find his grave either died or disappeared without a trace. A special place in this history is occupied by the stories of the Byzantine chroniclers. They wrote that Alexander's tomb was visible and then ceased to be. The phrase is mysterious and expresses a deliberately concealed truth. What does this mean? Destruction, re-hiding, or magic which was kept by the king himself? After all, Alexander believed from his youth that his destiny was special. It was believed that he descended from Achilles and even from Zeus himself. His mother, Olympias, claimed that lightning visited her during her conception. Perhaps it was this conviction in his divine nature that caused his body not to disappear completely after his death, and such a decision occurred in legends. Some mystics say, Alexander is not dead. His body only rests in a secret tomb, and his soul wanders the earth. Legend has it that on strange nights when the scarlet moon rises over the Mediterranean, footsteps are heard in Alexandria, as if the heavy boots of warriors are marching on the stones. Locals believe that this army of Alexander comes out of the darkness to guard the peace of their king. In the 19th century, there was a real excitement around the search for the tomb. Archaeologists, travelers, and even adventurers searched for it under the streets of modern Alexandria. Some claim to have passed strange underground halls filled with ancient sarcophagi, but every time it seemed that the mystery was close to being solved, everything was in a hurry. Either the finds were presented as fakes, or access to them was closed by the authorities. One French explorer wrote that he had seen a tomb, but later suddenly died, leaving only a diary with fragments of descriptions. Another expedition managed to find a hall with columns and mosaics, but the entrance soon collapsed because the earth itself did not want to reveal the secret. Such stories are important, and they all give the search an aura of mysticism. There is even a version that the Egyptian government has already found Alexander's tomb, but hid it from the general public. According to rumors, in the 20th century during construction work in Alexandria, they came across an ancient sarcophagus made of an unusual material. It was transported to an unknown location, and the find was classified, officially to avoid causing unrest, unofficially because Alexander's body remained incorruptible, and this shocked the entire world. So Alexander the Great remains at the center of a great mystery. His life changed history, but perhaps it was his death that hid a secret that has yet to be revealed. Where is he? In the catacombs of Alexandria? In a lost tomb in the desert? Or perhaps his body really did disappear, like legends that are left only as whispers through the centuries? But perhaps the most mystical version is related to Alexander himself. There are ancient manuscripts that confirm that the king's body never lay still. They say that when the sarcophagus was first opened after his burial, the guards noticed a strange glow. It emanated from the face of the deceased. It seemed that he was not dead, but only sleeping. Since then, a legend has been born that Alexander did not die completely and is waiting for the moment to return. This myth has been maintained for centuries. In the Middle Ages, it was rumored that a great general had come at the last hour of history to announce a world under one crown. In Christian texts, he was even called the King from the East, whose return would herald great changes. And isn't it fortunate that he spoke the same thing in both the East and the West, giving it the form of a prophecy? If we turn to Egyptian tradition, it becomes even more mysterious. In Egyptian traditions, those who rule with the power of the gods never die completely. Their souls become part of the eternal circle and can become the world at the time when they rule. It is possible that the Egyptian priests gave Alexander's body a special ritual known only to them. Perhaps this is why the sarcophagus has not survived in history. It was a talisman, a secret not to be trusted to people. However, rational researchers see things differently. They believe that the body simply disappeared due to the chaos that reigned in the city. Wars, fires, earthquakes, raids, all this could destroy even the most magnificent tomb. But then the question arises, why do so many written testimonies say that the tomb of an even deeper time was visible and venerated? Why did a host of pilgrims claim to bow before the sarcophagus of Alexander? Even Roman emperors came to Alexandria to look at the remains of the great king. Octavian Augustus, for example, according to legend, touched the face of the dead Alexander, and the sarcophagus seemed to glow for a moment. This story is not reminiscent of a dry chronicle, but a mystical episode, as if the king's body possessed enormous power. You go beyond the limits of understanding. Perhaps it was this power that later forced the rulers to close his tomb. What if Alexander really was more than just human flesh? What if his body was a sentence, capable of giving power or a curse, whoever touched it? In that case, it is not surprising that the tomb was hidden. All who knew its location either disappeared or remained silent for the rest of their days. Many esotericists believe that Alexander was not just a military leader, but a guide between the worlds. His campaigns symbolized not only the conquest of lands, but also the unification of the spiritual forces of the East and West. And swallowing his body is not a loss, but part of the plan. He should not be independent of any nation or any religion. His secret is a challenge to humanity so that people never forget his greatness. Modern archaeologists continue to search for traces. Excavations are underway under the streets of Alexandria. New tunnels and vaults are found, but so far all in vain. Every time a new room is discovered, hope revives. But Alexander's tomb remains a sacred ghost that eludes scientists. And each new layer of earth only creates the impression that the city itself guards his secret. But there is another version that is rarely discussed. Some researchers believe that Alexander's body was hidden not in Egypt at all, but in Macedonia, his native land. Secretly taken away at night, it was buried in the mountains to rest among his ancestors. If this is true, then Alexander returned home, and only his spirit remained in Alexandria, continuing to hover over the city. Or maybe it's all much more mystical. Maybe Alexander's body doesn't exist in its usual form. Maybe it became part of a myth, dissolved in time, like legends dissolve, preserving only echoes in memory. It's no coincidence that he became a symbolic eternal search, a symbolic man who managed to surpass the border of his era. And so we stand before the elegant mystery of humanity. Where does Alexander the Great rest? His name is known to every school child. His campaigns changed the map of the world. His legacy became the basis of many cultures. But he himself seems to have disappeared into the fog of history. And this absorption seems not an accident, but a design. Verbally, fate itself decided to hide the king from human eyes, turning him into an eternal mystery. Consider, how many centuries have passed, how many empires have risen and fallen, and yet his secret lives on. If the tomb had been found, Alexander might have become just another museum piece. But thanks to her poisoning, he remains a symbol, a legend, a myth, inspiring a generation. Death made him a man, but the secret of the tomb elevated him to immortality. Isn't it lucky how history intertwines with mysticism? The greatest conqueror of all time disappears, and no one can find a trace of him. Perhaps this is his last conquest, a victory over time. After all, time destroys everything, erases cities and armies, but it could not erase Alexander. It only revealed him from us, so that we again and again ask questions to which there was no answer. And here, everyone is free to believe in whatever they want. Some will say that his tomb was destroyed. Some will say that it was hidden intentionally. And some will believe in the mystical, that Alexander still spits, waiting for the hour when the world will take away his strength again. And perhaps this is what makes his image so attractive. We appear in it not only as a half-tenth, but also as a symbol of mystery, a symbol of eternal search. What other secrets does our history keep? How many rulers, whose fates we think we know, actually remain in the shadows? We will never know a single attack, but this is what makes the past alive. It breathes with riddles, it whispers to us from the depths of centuries. It makes us search, doubt, opening new pages. And perhaps someone will actually open Alexander's sarcophagus. An archaeological expedition in Alexandria, or in the mountains of Macedonia, will stumble upon a hidden door, and the body of the great king will appear before humanity. But until that happens, the secret lives on. And it is this secret that makes this story truly eternal. Friends, what do you think? What really happened to Alexander's body? Was it hidden, destroyed, or is it still resting in a secret tomb that we have no idea about? Write your opinion in the comments. This version is important because this secret belongs to all of humanity. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of mysteries, mysticism, and history, be sure to support our channel. Subscribe to avoid publishing new episodes, like if you are hooked on this story, and share it with your friends. There are even more amazing secrets ahead, from cursed documents to unsolved Italians. Remember, history is not only dates and facts, it is also riddles that we are trying to solve. Each of them is like a key to understanding the past and therefore the future. And the deeper we look into these secrets, the more we realize that man has always been and remains a creature looking for answers. Alexander the Great left us not only the legacy of a conqueror, but also an elegant question. And perhaps the question is more important than any reactions. Because as long as it remains unanswered, we will come to his name again and again. And that means he is eternal.